in sculpture, in Buddhism, you have serial Buddhas. You see, 100,000 Buddhas have been carved out of clay because each one is a potential Buddha, each one is a potential God. Now, this is an open approach, open-minded. We don't believe in one God, one truth, one. We say, ये भी अच्छे, ये भी अच्छे, वो भी ठीक है. You see, this is a normal discourse of people we call Hindus. Normal. भाई वो तो ये कहता है, हाँ भाई वो भी ठीक है. वो अपनी तरह सोचता है. अपनी तरह सोचने की इजाजत है. So, the dialogue between the two, sir, is not possible because dialogue between a tiger and a goat is not possible. You see, the dialogue between a hunter and the hunted is not possible. They are proselytizing, we are not proselytizing. So, there can be dialogue only if the tiger becomes old and loses its teeth, or the goat becomes so strong that it can overcome the tiger. This is the only alternative. At the same time, thirdly, I would say, Islam as a system, very rightly, that it's a political system. There is a fracture in the concept of religion there. And that's why, but as a whole, these days, particularly after the Wahhabi movement, you see the Middle East, the Iraqi and the Syrian Muslims, they don't have this panic and anxiety that we will survive. But those who have gone to Islam later, they have this. So Islam seems to be gripped by anxiety of perishing. That unless we kill, we will be killed. So that's the psychological drive. And only they can get out of it. Now see, Christianity created a reform from within. Martin Luther. But in Islam, there has been wherever there has been reform, like the Qadianis or the Baha'is, you see, they've been thrown out of the system. So the God, if they have kind of, you see, the patient has to treat himself. You can't have a psychiatrist for the whole community. As far as, you see, for example, I had students, ambassadors and first secretaries of Iraq and Syria doing PhD with me. And the first time that the ambassador of Syria, who was studying with me, Diwali time he came and said, very nice people, very hesitant people. I had several students from Syria, from Damascus University and others, including girls who did their PhD. They're very nice, very hesitant. Professor Kapoor, may I ask something without offending you? This is Diwali. Would you like to have sweets or scotch? Then I said, Mr. Khufi, listen once for all. Scotch all the time. No sweets. And sir, I'm very happy, he said. You know what we say in Syria? We say, when you pour wine on a stone, the stone becomes happy. The stone becomes happy. So see, that eclecticism is there, but it's not there in Afghanistan now. And it is still there in Afghanistan to some extent, ordinary people. In Pakistan it is not there. It is, I think it is there, even in Pakistan. That's why they are so troubled. You see, imagine a people who know that they were earlier Hindus. Imagine the problem. Imagine that problem. So they also know. And the effort is somehow to confront this and to continue to exist. But then, you see, you can understand them psychologically, but when people start killing, then Mahatma Gandhi said simply go and get killed. But that doesn't solve the problem. If everybody goes and gets killed. So, some kind of, this is going to be, I feel for the next half a century or so, if not half a century, maybe a little less, it's going to be a tense tussle in the world. You see, it's not now confined here, it's across the world. And till the only way, in fact, the only way is when Islam will reform itself from being a political ideology, when it becomes religious. That's the only solution. Otherwise, and I think they also know that they cannot convert the whole world now. Now, at the height of power, when Saladin conquered Europe, you see in the Battle of Vienna, at the height of power, also they could not conquer India completely. And I must tell you, Ghazni, Mahmud Ghazni, infamous Mahmud Ghazni, in India, in Skanda Puran, they say that Lamghan Adhipati, Mahendra Sama Vikramaha. Now the Skanda Puran celebrates the valor of Mahmud Ghazni, says that Lamghan ka Raja Mahendra, Indra ki tarah powerful tha. And why did the Hindu kings fall like 9 pins? They asked that question and they answer also. So the point is that, you see, Ghazni's army, when it sacked Somnath, one of its generals was a Hindu. Not many people know. His name was Tilak. As he says, there are still Hindus in Afghanistan. They are Afghan Hindus. So it's a kind of, you see, and as I said, when Yuan Chuang came from China, when he was in Kabul, he was very sad because he was a Buddhist. You see? And he said, I'm sorry, now in Kabul, I can again hear the Vedic chants. So, they were Hindus, they became Buddhists, then again they became Hindus. More they kya, us, both of us. Now, my grandparents, they chose not to change. They chose to retain and they came away. But many of our families remained there, and they became Muslims. You see? So this is a very, very complex situation, and I agree that the drive from within, for example, this is a very powerful drive that Umar is talking of. My drive, I was only 9 years old when we came. But inside me, I always feel I am a refugee, that my home is somewhere else. And I have great urge to go back to Lahore and Rawalpindi and the areas and Peshawar where we used to, even as a child we used to know. So I'm sorry, I think I've given a little different perspective, but then thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful observations. Your experience, wisdom and expertise is always of great help for the ideology in our organization. Now, for concluding remarks and the vote of thanks, I would like to request Shri Gopal Agrawal ji to come to the dais and present his thoughts.
Thank you. I would just give my comments on the topic. We have got a philosophical perspective to the topic from Soni ji and Mr. Kapoor. And I think he has rightly said that it should not be ethnic cleansing but religious cleansing of, that's one of the major issue. On behalf of HRDI, I would like to just say that I had my personal brush with the topic when in 2011 we organized this program of ethnic cleansing of Hindus and Sikhs in Pakistan, and we had a very good program in the Constitution Club with Ram Singh Lodha, who was the MLA from Pakistan. He participated, and Mr. Jaswant Singh, former Foreign Minister of India, and many other prominent people, Francis Gethier and other people participated, and we came to know of the issues, and we came, from HRDI we thought that we should take it further. Then in 2012, what happened, there were around 150 refugees, Hindu refugees of Pakistan, who came and stayed in Majnu Ka Tila, and we were informed that you had, so one of the, some person from there had come to know that we had organized a program in 2011. Though they contacted us and said, we went to meet there, and Rajesh and some people went to meet there and saw that they had a very difficult, there was so much plight for their, those people. They were living in a cold, in a very bad situation, in the open places, on the tents, without any proper food facility. But there was that Swamiji at Majnu Ka Tila Ashram was doing something, but their resources were limiting, and even they had problem with the government that their visa was expiring and they were not getting extension. They were not having work permit, so they could not earn anything. So then we had for around almost 3 months from HRDI and with support from many people, individual and some organizations, we organized those camps and then came to know of the whole problem. Then we went into the whole issue. They were their visa was extended. We had the meeting with the minister, though their visa was extended, but their plight did not. Many people are staying in various parts of the India, whether in Jodhpur and other things. So they themselves narrated so many problems. Even Shishi Ravi Shankar ji and many prominent people went from their camps, and we all came to know the problems. Some issues have been made out in this discussions. I will just flag off that just for so that we can take it further and keep in mind the actual problem is. I will quote from the Human Rights Commission report of the Pakistan, which says there has been an unchecked, last year it has come, there has been an unchecked rise in religious extremism, and the situation has worsened for religious and sectarian minorities in Pakistan. A sequence of attacks in Sikhs in Peshawar, assassins of Hindus in Umarkot and temples elsewhere in Sindh, an attack on blasphemy, convict. All these point out that there is a serious problem in Pakistan. It has to be tackled in a human rights perspective. There has to be a strategy by all of us, specifically by India, to take this issue further. And there is a problem of temples. So many, even Pakistan Hindu Council has mentioned that around 1400 temples are in very dire states in Pakistan, which needs immediate help for reconstruction, maintenance, and their if they are not taken care of, there will be problem. And further, complete cleansing of Hindu religion. These are the source for Hindus and Sikhs to have their religious linkages. That is required. Marriage is a problem. There is a problem of the Marriage Act. It is a 1872 Act is there for registering marriages. There is no further any change or any renovation or any reform in the Marriage Act. Therefore, people are not getting proper registration of their marriages. And if the Hindu marriages are not being registered, then the problem of divorce comes, then custody of children. So these are some issues that we are very serious. We have to take care of them. And ultimately, it is the blasphemy law of Pakistan which is creating very strong problem, very difficult problem for Hindus and Sikhs. Though it says that everybody has a right to follow its religion, but the Tikrik mindset, Takfiri mindset of the Islamic religion, which says that we alone are the righteous person. Our Islam is the only path of righteousness. All other paths are very difficult. Therefore, this blasphemy law has to be tackled. So I think this struggle has to go further. We should take various issues. This issue is very important to all of us. We will from HRDI take this issues further. And I thank on behalf of HRDI Mr. Umar Daud for his insightful and first-hand experience on the issue, Mr. Soni and Mr. Kapil Kapoor for their views and guiding us in this our issue. I thank all of you for patient hearing and supporting HRDI from since yesterday to today evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Rajesh Gognaji and Guruji, who have conducted this session very nicely. Thank you very much.
If there are any questions for me, now we can interact with us.
I have one comment.
That's what he said after the lunchtime, during lunchtime.
session, the next session will be linguistic concerns of Indian diaspora, and it will start at 2:15 p.m. Thank you. And meanwhile, we can please go out and have a lunch.
My comment, you are going to be definitely kidnapped. And the only option available to the parent is just to keep quiet. Even go to a police station and to register a complaint is a horrifying experience. So this is the situation which our Hindu brothers and sisters are going through in Pakistan. Our job is to bring these facts to your notice, and I request you to know more and more about it so that you have a feel for them. And as you don't know that number, their number, how could you know about their misery? So my humble request is through this session we are trying to bring some more facts about the Hindus and Sikhs in Pakistan and Afghanistan, some more facts about their sufferings, and would request you to kindly open your mind, think about them. They are also part of this universe. When Hindus are thinking about Yazidis, where Hindus are thinking about human rights violations all around the world, why not about Hindus and Sikhs of Pakistan and Afghanistan? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rajesh ji, for giving the real-time perspective and the statistics. We all of us know that since the last decade, you have been involved in getting the justice done to our people living in our neighboring nation as well as abroad through dharnas, symposium, holding fasts. We really respect you, and I would request all of you to have a separate round of applause for Rajesh ji for his works. Now, proceeding with our session, now I would like to request Mr. Amitabh Soni, a very youthful thinker and also director of Hindu Human Rights London chapter. He has also been associated with the Overseas Friends of BJP. Now let's request him to come to the dais and give us his perspective. Mr. Soni.
Namaste to dignitaries on the dais and my friends sitting right in front of me. I have lived in England for about 10 years, and the good thing about living in England, and that too in London, is that you get to interact with different people from different parts of the world, different ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, people from Europe, Eastern Europe, South America, North America, Far East Asia. You get to interact with them. And for many years I worked with the British government. The department is called Social Services, where I would go and interact with people in their homes, in their home environment, and interview them extensively, try and understand where they're coming from, what their problem is, and how the government could intervene and help them out. So that gave me a deep insight as to how people actually think. What are their aspirations, what are their motivations, and also under what circumstances they have come to this country. Yesterday Mr. Murthy spoke about being stateless. I've met people from Somalia who are stateless. There are people who are refugees whose passports have been revoked. So how do they live? Where do they want to go from there? So that gave me a deep insight into people's aspirations and motivations and their problems as well. I also happened to interact with people from Pakistan, from Bangladesh as well, but usually from Pakistan. Being an Indian, coming from an RSS background, an army background, at the age of 30 I went there, grappling with these questions that why is there so much hatred? And I have made some friends, if you like, Pakistani friends, with whom I had formal and informal discussions as to what is that you want from us? Aap humse chahte kya hai? Right? Racially, we are the same people. We share the same history, the same ancestors, and to a great extent, the same culture as well. And I did get some satisfactory answers. अभी राजेश जी ने काफी डिटेल में बताया कि क्या होता है, बहुत कुछ शायद आप लोगों को पहले से भी पता होगा कि पाकिस्तान में क्या हो रहा है. वो स्कूल पे जो हमला हुआ था, the school that was attacked in Pakistan. If you think, if you ask yourself, why would somebody do that? If you murder a person within deep inside you have to be convinced. You have to be convinced that I'm doing the right thing. Isn't it? चोर भी जब चोरी करता है या कोई डाकू डाका डालता है तो वो अंदर से कन्विंस्ड होता है ना, वो ऐसा नहीं सोचता कि मैं बुरा काम करने जा रहा हूँ. So what is that deep inside that convinces the person to commit such horrendous acts? 10 years back, I have this friend with the BBC Hindi service, used to work with my brother. We would debate, long debates about India, Pakistan. And mind you, not everybody from Pakistan is stupid. Like we make jokes about the Pakistan library. How many books are there in the Pakistan library? And the joke is that there's only one book. So that is not the case. There are well-read, learned people from Pakistan as well. You're going to hear Dawood shortly, and your misconceptions would be cleared about Pakistan. So he would argue with me that we have this idea that we're trying to push, which is that we need to create a Muslim Brotherhood, and the Pakistan Army also backs that. So I asked further, very in depth, so I probed further. What comes out is that they have this idea that our truth, our version of truth is the only truth. Do you know how do you convert to Islam? Does anybody know here? When you go to somebody, you go to a mullah and say, I want to convert to Islam. What are the two things you're supposed to believe in? Sorry? Somebody? Yeah.
Allah is the only God.
Allah is the only
Only
God.
God.
Allah is the only God, and His messenger, Prophet Muhammad, is the last prophet. These are the two things you have to believe in, right? So this is the idea. When you say He's the last messenger, what does it mean? It means that anybody after that, like Sri Ravi Shankar, Swami Vivekananda, that long list that we all can give, they stand nowhere. So you have to believe what the Prophet said. And they're very clear about that. See, no ideology is preposterous or stupid because it doesn't look good. From outside, people living outside India, will share this with you, my friend from New York, will agree with me. They would make fun of Ganesh ji, that you worship an elephant god. Aapke bhagwan to hathi hain, Hanuman ji bandar hain. They find it preposterous. But an ideology is not preposterous because it sounds or seems like one. It is preposterous because the consciousness that it creates within you. आपके अंदर जो चेतना वो विचारधारा पैदा करती है, वो ये तय करती है कि आप कितने सम्माननीय, मूर्ख या विद्वान हैं. Now what happened with Pakistan? This is again from my interactions with them and some readings that I've done, but mostly my interactions with them. Their history starts with Muhammad bin Qasim. The history that is taught in Pakistan starts with Muhammad bin Qasim. Who was Muhammad bin Qasim? I would urge the youngsters sitting there, please note down this name and Google it. Muhammad bin Qasim. He was the first invader, right? And they call him the first Pakistani as well. In certain ways, they're right. So he came in, if you look at or watch their documentaries, they will tell you that he came in and there was jahalat, ignorance in India. People were worshipping monkeys and elephants and other animals, and there was discrimination. And then this gentleman comes and he enlightens everybody. They don't say how many people he killed, but the term they use is enlightenment. So he comes and enlightens these people and relieves them of all this ignorance. So that is how the history of Pakistan starts. Now my question to them was, or still is, what happened before that? Well, that's where we start. I said, hang on. You have a history beyond that. You don't tell your kids or your scholars don't write about them. No, we don't. We start from here. Where is the problem with this thinking? History is something that has happened. You cannot choose your history. How can you be selective about history? Future, of course you can choose your future, right? I have to go this way, not that way. But how can you be selective about your history? So this is the ground where they falter, that they are selective about history, right? Now, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan, these are essentially not the land of Muslims, but these are lands for Muslims. Understand the difference? ये मुसलमानों की जमीन नहीं है, ये उनके लिए बनाई गई है ये जमीन, क्योंकि वो जितना पीछे जाते हैं, जितना खोदेंगे, उसमें से उनको हिंदुस्तान, भारत ये मिलता जाएगा. Now, what is this imperialistic mindset? You have to understand that as well. Why are we discussing this? Because you need to understand the problem and only the solution will come.